Hello and welcome to another edition of Currently in Quincy. I'm Joe Catalano. On today's program, we chat with Chris Reel from Fox Rock Properties of Quincy, all about their developments across the city, in particular at the Whitwell Street site and downtown Quincy. First, though, as always, we check out the weather and the news for you this morning. Currently in Quincy, it's pouring out there, heavy rain. 48 degrees right now. It'll warm up into the mid-50s this afternoon. The wind is going to kick up too out of the south, and that's going to warm us up even further for tomorrow. The rain will continue tonight. It'll be spotty showers tomorrow, but look at the highs tomorrow. Could hit 60, 61 degrees or so. Not as wet tomorrow as it is today, but definitely some scattered showers to be prepared for. And then the bottom falls out tomorrow night. Temperatures dip into the low 30s. That will change the rain over to snow. Could have a couple, 3 inches by Wednesday morning, with highs Wednesday only in the mid-30s. Sunny, cold on Thursday. The high barely 30 degrees, but it's going to warm up again towards next weekend. Again, raining 48 in Quincy right now. In the news today, though, there are new regulations in place covering recreational marijuana shops here in Quincy. The City Council last week approved the new ordinance. It bans retail pot shops from opening up near schools, daycare centers, playgrounds, beaches, neighborhoods, or any other area frequented by children. Ward 4 City Councilor Brian Palmucci also inserted a provision that requires any host agreement for tax payments that a pot shop has with the city to be reviewed by the City Council. Law essentially only allows retail marijuana stores to locate near the Quincy Shipyard, the Crown Colony Office Park, or on Raschuti Drive. That's where the current medical marijuana dispensary is. And they're also seeking to sell recreational pot. The pot shops would have the same business hours as package stores. Again, Ward 4 Councilor Brian Palmucci with his comments on the new pot regulations.
I would seek to add some sort of council oversight to that by way of amendment by adding a line, at least 60 days prior to execution by the mayor, the HCA must be submitted to the city council for review. That doesn't give us that wouldn't give the city council any authority to vote on it, but at least we would be aware of it. My concern as a ward councilor is that, and I wouldn't put this to Mayor Koch because it's not how he does business, but I don't know, there might be a different mayor and a different ward councilor in the future who don't get along, and I could see a mayor signing a host community agreement and excluding the ward councilor. I mean, that theoretically could happen, and as a ward councilor, that makes me very uncomfortable, and not only could it happen over a councilor's objection, but it could happen essentially in secret, because there's nothing about the host community agreement that is a public matter. So this just kind of makes that host community agreement publicly reviewable by the council.
The mayor has indicated he will sign that legislation. City of Quincy joining a long list of communities that will soon ban the use of single-use disposable plastic shopping bags. The new regulation was approved last week, and Councilor at Large Nina Lang says retailers have 3 months to implement the plastic bag ban.
I just have one amendment I'd like to change on this, and so at the bottom of page 2, it says this ordinance shall take effect 60 days after its enactment. I just want to put a hard date on that so that us as counselors can speak to our residents and folks watching at home know when that hard start date is going to be. So 60 days, I would like to have this say this ordinance shall take effect March 1st, 2020. And again, this is an effort to just make sure that we don't have a rolling 60 days. We have an actual start date for this ordinance to take effect. So that's an amendment that I would like to propose.
New law also allows retailers to charge customers for paper bags, plastic bags that are used in stores for produce, for fish and meats. Also, dry cleaning bags and newspaper bags are exempt from the ban. The violation will carry fines of up to $100. Opponents of a natural gas compressor station that's being built on the banks of the Fore River in North Weymouth are vowing to keep up their fight even as construction begins. Enbridge Energy began preparing the site along Bridge Street for the project recently after winning the final state and federal permits that were needed for the station. The Fore River residents against the compressor station, or FRACS, say they will be protesting at the site every day and are continuing to pursue lawsuits against the project. Federal law allows the project to move ahead while those lawsuits are pending. The project has been opposed by local elected officials in Quincy, Weymouth, and Braintree, and federal elected officials. Opponents argue that the station will add to the already polluted air in the industrial Fore River Basin. Norfolk County Register of Deeds Bill O'Donnell recently hosted a delegation from the Chinese Ministry of Natural Resources, Bureau of Natural Resource Registration. O'Donnell provided the delegation with an overview of land document recording procedures at the registry in Dedham. O'Donnell says the meeting included a lively question and answer session regarding property ownership, development, and zoning rules as the visitors begin the process of creating a land document recording system in China. The delegation even presented O'Donnell with a gift of a Chinese silk tapestry. With weather and news, let's check out our programming lineup for later on today here on Quincy Access Television. Starts with a replay of this program currently in Quincy today at 5 o'clock. At 6 o'clock, The Forgotten People. We go on the road with Jazzy Bill, episode 4 tonight at 7. 7:35, this year's Quincy Christmas Festival poster contest winners.
So, we have a poster here to show everybody that you...
And then this year's Quincy Christmas Parade at 8 o'clock on Channel 8.
Thank you for
9 o'clock,
having
the
me.
effects of
As
climate
Maggie
change
said,
on
I'm
New
a
England's
professor at Boston
forests.
University, and I thought I'd bring a picture of BU with me if you haven't been to the campus. It's beautiful.
And at the library concert tonight at 10, it's Women in World Jazz. And Democracy Now! At 11 o'clock on Channel 8. Check out Channel 9 every day. You'll learn about Quincy City Department's different committee activities. All starts at 5:30 with Quincy in Focus. 6 o'clock, Crime Watch with Quincy Police Lieutenant Dan Minton. Tonight's topic, road rage. FYI from the Quincy Health Department at 6:30, we learned about the vegetarian lifestyle. Last week's Quincy Planning Board meeting on 114 Whitwell Street, replayed tonight at 7 on Channel 9.
My name is Jo.
Then at
Comerford.
9:30,
I
the
represent
Mass Joint
Hampshire
Committee on
Franklin
Public
Worcester
Health
District in
from
the
back on
State
December
Senate.
3rd.
You are warmly welcome to this hearing.
Get a complete program schedule over on our website. Go to qatv.org. When you get there, just click on Program Schedule. Don't forget, too, to please do like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and check out our weekly ad in the Quincy Sun. Coming up, we take a look at a few of the current events and activities we're featuring on our electronic bulletin board on Channel 8 for your information. Please stay tuned. We're back with you in just 1 minute. Welcome back. Here is a check of some of the current events and activities that are featured right now on our electronic bulletin board on Channel 8 for your information. Quincy Farmers Market has a winter location this year. Market's going to be opening up at the South Shore YMCA on Coddington Street Fridays from 11:30 to 3 right through February the 14th. Now, there are 16 vendors that are participating in the winter market. You can visit their website, quincyfarmersmarket.com, for all the details. The Ward 2 Civic Association's annual Christmas party is Wednesday from 6 to 7:30 at the Fore River Clubhouse on Nevada Road in Quincy Point. You're asked to bring a dessert, and food and music will be provided. Discover your Jewish heritage tonight at the Thomas Crane Public Library in Quincy Center. David Ellis of the Jewish Genealogical Society of Greater Boston making a free presentation, 7 o'clock. It'll teach you how to research your family history, and we'll discuss DNA testing. Call 617-376-1300, extension 3 for more information. And the food pantry at the Germantown Neighborhood Center on Palmer Street is open Wednesdays from 8:30 to noon and Fridays from 4 to 6. You can call them for more information at 617-376-1384. And if you have an event or an activity you'd like to promote, visit our website, qatv.org. Just download a bulletin board request form, fill it out, send it in, get your message up here on Channel 8 too. Coming up, we have a chat with Chris Reel of Fox Rock Properties of Quincy. That's next. Welcome back. We're pleased to welcome back to the program, although it's been a while. Chris Reel is here from Fox Rock Properties of Quincy to chat a little bit about some of the developments that are going on here in the city. Chris, good to see you again.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it.
Our pleasure to have you come back and talk about a little bit more about, obviously, the 114 Whitwell Street project that was just approved by the planning board last week, and also right in the heart of downtown, too, where the old Ross parking garage used to be.
Yep.
So first of all, let's hit on the old hospital site up on Whitwell Street. It's been contentious, I don't have to tell you. Not everybody's happy. A lot of people are to see something happen out there. Where do we go from here?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. So yeah, it's been it's been 3 years, almost exactly, since we acquired the property. Immediately started having meetings, and it's been a very full 3 years, and we're very excited to have the planning board process behind us. But our work's really just starting with making sure that even though there were some disagreements, that we can make this project the best possible project for not only future residents but the current residents of the neighborhood.
Yeah, and that really has not been talked about a whole lot as to how this project will open up that area to the entire Hospital Hill neighborhood, right? Where it's kind of been blocked off before by, it was a hospital for many years.
Right.
So how will that work? How will it benefit the folks who are living in that area?
Yeah, so I think, I'd encourage folks to go back, and I know you're showing it tonight, the last planning board meeting where my teammate Josh Kleiman kind of went through the latest iteration of the plans. I think, just taking one step back, we started this, and, we had a proposal that was 598 units, but more than that, we had a proposal that it became very clear to us didn't work for the neighborhood because it didn't do some of the things that I think this latest plan does, which I can show you through the renderings we have.
Sure.
And so the residents up there and the neighbors who engaged in this process throughout the 3 years and worked tirelessly, I fought for those issues and fought to make it seamlessly part of the community, and I think we got there on some of those issues, and I know there's still some disagreement on the number of units and the density, but I think that is the thing that we're most proud of this latest plan, and that it does become a vibrant part of what is already a great community, and I think does that by creating more open space, more green space, focuses on the connectivity of kind of the 3 different areas up there. So you have the Whitwell Street, Colonial, and down towards the existing park on Glendale, and really trying to make this connectivity throughout the site.
Good idea to bring those photos in right now then, seeing as we're talking about
Sure.
it, so give folks a little sense for what they might see up there. Let's take a look at the first
Absolutely.
one. And here's obviously the original administration building on Whitwell Street, right?
Yeah, so this was obviously a key for us, and the building, really doesn't have a ton of functional utility, but so iconic, and keeping it kind of anchors the development into more of what it has been, but also looking more like a campus and inviting, and really tough to recreate that. And so our plan started with keeping this along the streetscape on Whitwell, but at the same time not having it and not having the buildings kind of go out to the periphery. So that was a key feature, and this building, I think our intention is to have it serve the entire community.
Really?
And that's part of the discussion with the neighborhood that we'd still like to continue.
Oh,
Right? It's
okay.
not just about what we'd like to see in there. It's how should we program this? What would kind of get folks to use the development?
Okay, so this probably won't be residential in the administration building?
The administration building on the bottom floor
Yeah.
certainly is not going to be residential.
Okay, so a community center perhaps, or I don't know, an artist space maybe, or
Yeah, something like that would be great. I know
Oh,
there's
okay.
some zoning issues that we have to be mindful
Sure.
of what we can and can't use the space for, but we're open to suggestions, and I think that's part of the planning process that is, I think just because we went through the planning board doesn't mean the planning process is over. I think
Okay.
that the work starts now in terms of further developing this plan, having conversations with neighbors and making sure that we're following through on kind of what was approved.
Okay, very good. Let's take a look at the next one and
Sure.
get a sense for what the campus might look like here. And there we see the administration building off to the left, right? So this is the current entrance, I guess, to the parking lot?
Yeah, so another key feature I think is making, we align the drives so that we came across right with the drives on the other side. And then we have a ring road around the development that's interior to the site so that the cars that are coming through here are not intruding on the neighbors that abut the property.
Gotcha. Okay, so you're keeping it closed in basically, and the building service a buffer.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And then I think that the what's not shown here,
Yeah.
but the reason why this road is here is so that we can have the center of the site and we have underground parking that is entirely green space and that is, active and is open to the community.
Yeah, when you first told me that, the first thing I thought of was the Rose Kennedy Greenway, right? When it used to be an elevated, highway,
Yeah.
went underground, and the result is a new park.
Right.
So is that what you're envisioning here also?
Yeah, I think, finding those ways, and we brought on, one of the first groups that we brought on was a landscape architect to figure out how because I think the first thing that we heard was, Glendale Park, and that is a part of the property. And it's kind of isolated and only down on Glendale. And
Yeah.
so because that was the first thing we heard, and because green space and open space is such a central part of any good development, it was try and find ways to enhance that open space as opposed to just confining it into the kind of 1 acre that is Glendale Park. So the entire site plan and development plan kind of has that continuance of Glendale Park all the way down and up through to Whitwell, which I think will really activate the site for folks in the surrounding neighborhoods.
Okay, and that's kind of been lost in the conversation too, is that, that will be open and accessible to the public, right?
Yes.
Will there be improvements made to the park as part of this project?
Yeah, so I think absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very nice as is. It's very tranquil down there, right next to the neighborhood club for folks that don't know it. And so there's nothing there now in terms of active programming. There's differing opinions depending on where you are in the neighborhood or where you are in life, right? If you have young kids, you naturally want a playground,
Sure.
right? But there's a playground across the street. And so I think that we'd had 2 separate meetings where we focused solely on what neighbors would like to see up there, and then what works relative to the new space that we would be building. And so that is something that we are still soliciting feedback on and want to have those conversations. But in terms of the conditions that were placed on the approval, that is one where we're leaning into it and really making sure that that's a feature of the
Okay, yeah.
project.
There were 36 separate conditions actually that
Yeah.
were imposed. Is that more than normal, would you say, for a development of this size?
I'm not sure about more than normal, but I
Yeah.
do know that towards the end, and we really started honing in on the peer review comments. I mean, this was the neighbors certainly had their the things that they were advocating for, and got us down from what we really wanted to do, which was 598 units and a plan that we liked, and took stock of that and made some significant concessions and came down to a number that made this particular development plan viable. But then also the city process and working through the planning board and the peer reviewer, was very extensive. Notwithstanding the fact that it was a hospital and it was a very dense use at one time, any development has triggers and things. So very, very, very extensive peer review process that resulted in some significant mitigation from our perspective, but ultimately will make the project better and the surrounding neighborhood better.
And in fact, was required in order for you to develop the old Ross parking garage site, right? It wouldn't, the two would not work without each other.
Yeah, I mean, so when we acquired the hospital project, we knew that this would be a long, extensive development process with the various different neighborhoods there and being such an iconic piece of property. But the fundamental starting point from where we were was we knew that there was pent-up medical demand from providers to be in Quincy. We've done that on the South Shore. That is our kind of core competency.
Right,
And
yeah.
so the clarity or the lack of clarity was, what are Steward's plans? They own the hospital. They had shrunk down to a 25,000 square foot emergency department.
Right.
So really, the downtown and all the infrastructure that the city's built and are building and the great vision that's been laid there is a perfect place for a medical cluster. And you're kind of already seeing that take shape with South Shore Hospital moving into a building. I know Beth Israel's moving into a building across the street. And then, of course, we announced a new medical building with South Shore and Brigham and Women's.
Right.
So that is, at the same time that we're talking
Yeah.
about a development up on the hospital and residential up there, we're very proud of kind of what's the progress we've been able to make and will continue to make downtown.
Well, these two projects going to move forward simultaneously, Chris?
No, so I mean, both moving forward simultaneously is moving as responsibly and as fast as we can to get these going. We are aiming towards a groundbreaking downtown in 2020
Oh, okay.
for the building.
Yes.
Just in terms of starting the infrastructure work and all the things that need to happen down there. So expect to see some progress there. And then at the same time, I think one of the things that came out of the planning board process and conversations with neighbors are, no matter how you felt about the development, I think a faster resolution up there than later is probably unanimous, right? So the demolition of the building
Yeah.
and just moving on with the future reuse, I think is important, and we're mindful of that.
Well, even the Hospital Hill Neighborhood Association said they're not opposed to developments up there. They realize it's a vacant, blighted property, really,
Right.
as it is right now. Something has to happen. So, is what's coming down then? Everything else except the administration building?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, and Stewart will be going away then.
So Stewart had a lease with us,
Yeah.
and that's coming to a conclusion.
Yep.
And so really, I think that is necessitating, and why we've been working so hard over the last few years. There's a couple different variables at play here in terms of building a new medical building and then also finding a reuse. So those are both very much a priority for us. We've been fortunate enough to hire a bunch of very talented people over the last few years to kind of execute on this vision, and something that we're excited about moving forward. And I think that the city council process this year, which could be overlooked given the planning board process, was
Yeah.
very productive. Had a lot of good meetings, and that was done as well this year. So that really clears a path for us to execute and with both these developments.
We have one more photo we can show folks,
Sure, great.
give them a sense for what's going to be happening up there. Let's take a look at this and see.
This was, again, the intent was and is to have lower scale buildings,
Yep.
throughout we have one 6-story building in the middle of the site, which is smaller than the existing buildings that are up there now. And that was to get all the density away from the surrounding neighborhoods.
Right.
And the buildings on the perimeter of the site are 4, 5 stories. And again, working with the grade, because you are on top of a hill.
Right, yeah.
We think, and we brought CBT in
Yep.
after the initial meeting to replan it and focus on those core things that folks were concerned about, and understandably so.
Okay. When will there start to be some activity up on Whitwell Street, Chris? What's the next step?
Yeah, so we've done a bunch of work already in the building. So we've
Okay.
done some interior work getting ready for that. Those buildings were winterized, and the exterior work, and the reason for that is we're trying to condense and limit the amount of exterior work that has to happen over a prolonged period of time. So I know when there was a building that came down there before, there was concern about abatement and different
Asbestos
issues.
was an issue, yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
Yep.
So we've kind of front loaded a lot of that work, done it interior
Okay.
in the building in advance of any demolition work, so that when the buildings do come down, we can get that done quicker, less impact on the neighborhood.
Okay.
So right now, like I mentioned, we've gone through the planning board process, which is the kind of overall master plan design phase, and we're working on charting a path towards, following up with the construction documents and finishing the planning, and that'll be informed by additional meetings and conversations with the neighborhood.
We'll have to have you back for an update if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, appreciate your time, Chris.
All right,
Thanks
thank you
for
very
being
much.
here. You're very welcome. Just enough time to recap the forecast for you for the rest of the day today. It'll be windy, warm, and wet out there, so grab the rain gear. Temperatures in the mid-50s this afternoon, and not too much cooler tonight, right around 50 degrees. Even warmer tomorrow with some occasional rain, and then we switch back to winter on Wednesday with a couple 3 inches of snow, and it'll stay cold for the rest of the week after that. Thanks again to Chris Reel for joining us today. Thanks to our crew. Thank you for watching. Friday at 11:30, Ron Yacobucci's here from the Quincy Career Center on another edition of Currently in Quincy. We will see you then.